why did you want to do the show in the first place?
Yeah, my situations. I've always been a fan of reality TV. I've always watched Big Brother and always sort of visualised myself. One day I'll get there. One day I'll do it. But I've gotten heaps close to getting on Big Brother heaps. Probably 08, 2012, 2014, 2 years ago. And then I auditioned again for this show. And my audition process was a bit bizarre because I auditioned maybe June, not audition, sent in a video, didn't hear anything back. And then I got a random email in November saying, can we have a Zoom meeting? Said, yeah, sweet. And I just said who I am, what I was about. And then basically they said, we've got our cast, we're sorted. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's all good. And then I got an email saying, you're on the backup list. I was like, yep, sweet, that's fine. And then I was sort of like, it was my summer holidays. I'm a PE teacher, so I was just sort of hanging out with the boys, playing a bit of golf, hanging out with the family, and definitely not dieting. I was just indulging in burgers and chips and beers or whatever. And then I got this random call saying someone's pulled out or someone's been sick. You got 30 hours to get ready. Are you ready? And I just said to him, yeah, I'm ready to go. But I wasn't. I didn't have my bags packed. Didn't have me third. I had to get another jab. Then I just had to sort everything out in 30 hours. And my wife's also a teacher as well. So she was sort of like, I was umming and ahhing whether to go, whether it was the right thing for my family because, I got two girls at home. And she said, no, you've always wanted this. So I in 30 hours, got my third jab, went and got everything I needed. And then off I went. And my 6 weeks holidays I was meant to be spending with my family was pretty much over on the island. But so it was a bit of a different situation for me because I didn't have time to prepare. I was sort of in the mindset that I wasn't on, and then all of a sudden I'm in and ready to go. So I didn't have time to think about it, and sort of said to my wife, "What do I do?" And she's like, "Just be you." So I was like, "Okay, I can do that." And then fortunately, I got given the opportunity, and then I went and left.
That's insane that you were an alternate, considering like how much camera time you actually got compared to
Yeah,
other
yeah, for
people.
sure. And that's another thing to take into consideration was like there's obviously 100 people with varying stories, and I guess it's a game of luck, and luck went my way, and I got heaps of airtime, which is stoked. I was stoked to get the airtime I was. When I left the show, I sort of said to Kat, I think I went all right. I think I got a bit of airtime, and she's like, "Oh, don't get your hopes up." And I said, "No, all good." But yeah, fortunately, I got the airtime, and yeah, I was stoked.
Yeah, so obviously not having that much moment's notice. What did you expect maybe going into Million Dollar Island, and like how did that change? Like, did you think it was gonna be like more like a Love Island thing, or like a holiday, or like
Nah,
Survivor-esque, or what did you
for
expect?
sure. I went in with the mindset, and I said this to my wife. My wife said to me, "You've got to go in there knowing and thinking that you're going to be food deprived, sleep deprived. You're not going to have anything that's going to be advantageous to you as a person." And so I went in the mindset it was going to be hard, and I think that was the best mindset to have because it was hard. Now I knew I wasn't going over there for a holiday. I don't get nervous. I don't worry about anything. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. But this is sort of a situation where I was like, wow, like I've got no survival skills. I was a bit nervous, because I can't do that. That's not who I am. But one thing I am good at is forming friendships and interpersonal relationships. I do that every day as a teacher. So um, I knew that was going to be the focal point of my game. But I was extremely with the idea that it was going to be heaps tough, really tough.
Going into it, why did you choose Log out of all the other camps? Because that day one, you guys kind of looked like the crew from Lost, because everybody was
Yeah, yeah.
panicked that didn't know what was going on. So why did you choose Log?
Yeah, mate. There's no denying it was pandemonium. Everyone was just going in guns blazing, and with my situation, my situation was I was in lockdown with a roommate called Pete. Pretty much told him I've got no survival skills. He lives on the island. He's lived on the island of Mackay, and he's like, just stay in my back pocket. So I was originally in top camp at the start, and there was a few contestants arguing and bickering, and I was sort of like I was running back to the beach to get more supplies. When I come back, I run into my roommate who I was in lockdown with, and he's like, "Come with me, man. Like that, top camp are arguing. It's it's not a good situation. So I just formed a bit of a bond with him, and then I just dropped all my stuff, and then we just went into log camp, and they'd already had about 26, I think. So it was me, Geordie, who got runner up, and Pete. And we walked in, and they said, why do you want to be with us? And I said, oh, they're arguing there. And then they sort of said to Pete, well, what can you offer us? And Pete's a bit of a builder, so he said, I'll build the shelter. And then Geordie's like, oh, I'll help out as well. And they, what can you bring? And I was like, and nothing. No, I sort of said, I'll help Pete build, and we'll get the shelter going. And Pete just sort of looked at me and goes, you got to aim up, mate. You've got to build this shelter. Said, yeah, sweet. So I don't know how to build, but I was just in his back pocket, making sure that I was pulling my weight and stuff. And then I helped out with the fire. And that's another thing my wife said. She said, if you go to a camp, you need a man up, because I'm not much of a camper. So I manned up and done what I had to do. So that was my situation. I was arguing in top camp, and we ran right up the top to log. And it was me, Pete, and Geordie. We joined log camp, and obviously joined the camp with no food. But I think personally it was the best decision I made, because I think they were the best people, and they sort of co-aligned with my values and my morals. You know what I mean? So I'm stoked I joined the camp. It was just tough with the food situation.
Yeah. So, obviously with like 100 people, we don't really get to see like anybody. Sometimes people mention names. I'm like, who are you even talking about?
Yeah, 100%. Like it was.
Who did you bond with that we didn't get to see maybe like on camera immediately?
Yeah, for sure. So it was like, it's one of those things. Like I don't know if you'll go to that moment where I got all the bracelets. You can ask that question later, but there was times where in the morning there's a lot of downtime. So there's a lot of time where there's not much time on camera. Like I don't know if you know Maxine, she was a singer. Like I did a bit of yoga with her heaps in the morning. We spoke a lot about. She talked a lot about her journey and what she wants to do. I talked about what I want to do. So there's a lot of time that I bonded with Maxine. There's heaps of like bonding I did with Rock Camp that's sort of not seen, but I guess my best mate was probably Pete. So Pete, I feel super sorry for Pete. So I just won the challenge, and he'd gone down with, I think his heart rate was irregular and his blood pressure was dangerously low, so he had to leave. But one thing about Pete is I was in lockdown with him. He was a focal leader of our camp. Like all my time was spent with him. Like most of my time, I was in his back pocket. We'd go and hang out together. Like all my time pretty much was with Pete. And then the only airtime he gets was the situation where he had low blood pressure, but he was a leader of our camp. He made us get firewood. He was a pivotal leader in our game, or in the camp, and he didn't get any airtime. It just goes to show how much it is a game of luck, and you have to be in challenges. He didn't get the opportunity to be in challenges, but I can tell you right now, he would have been a pivotal figure in the game. I think he would have won a couple of challenges, and I think he would have done well. So he was my best mate, and you didn't really see. You only sort of saw it when Jake dogged me with the whole handshake agreement. He come down and helped me talk to Jake, but he was my best mate. And you didn't see that, which is crazy.
Yeah, so then maybe can you kind of talk about obviously the first like 2 episodes before you get the huge bracelets in the camp versus camp. There's a lot of drama between Carla and Adrian. So where were you in that front, and what was it like dealing with that? Just because it looked like really bad, like from like a viewer's perspective, like just all the tension.
Just two strong leaders, two really strong leaders who are very good at their craft. They're both very good at survival skills, and they're survival experts, both of them. I learned a lot from both of them, and that was it was bizarre. It was a lot of tension in the camp at the start. It was very hard to sort of I stay out of drama. I'm not a drama. I don't like it. So like I was neutral in that moment. So I was friends with AJ. I'm friends with Carla, but that was just a dynamic that just was never going to work, because both very strongly opinionated, both possess great leadership qualities. I'd say Carla is a little bit better because she's a bit more personable, and that was just a big problem at the start. And you could see there was a lot of tension there. But with my situation on that, I just try to not alleviate it, but just ignore it and let them sort out their issues, and just be me, like I don't engage in that stuff. So that's just not who I am. So, but there was definitely tension there between the both of them, and it was a bit rocky at times.
Yeah, so can you kind of talk about like going, what was it like having that giant feast and then realizing, oh shit, I have to compete in the Camp First Camp Challenge and I could possibly go home. So take me through that
Hectic.
entire thing.
That was crazy. So we saw all the food there, and my mate Pete just goes, "Look, mate, I think we're going to get fed. If I was you, mate, I would like be careful with what you eat because our stomachs just aren't ready yet. We've had limited food." And he's like, "It'll ruin your stomach." So I'm running down there and I sit down and I look over. What's Pete doing? Hooking right in. He's having like his beef burritos. He's on. I'm looking over. What are you doing, man? He's like, "Just eat." I went, "Okay." Hooking in. It was just like, how good's this? And it was like the first sort of nutritious food we've had in such a long time, and it was just the best moment. And then you sort of got the vibe that something was up. Like they're not just going to feed us for no reason. Something was going on. And then Brett wandered down, and we're just there going, nah, something's happening here. Something big's happening. And there was a contestant. I think there was a few contestants that were pretty reluctant to eat because they thought, no, it was a trick. Whoever didn't eat would be able to survive in the next, or be exempt from the game or the elimination. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of people that were in that, and then I just started hooking in, and then Brett come, and it was just like, what's going on? And then the moment he said he had the power, can't be camp, I was like, no, no. And I knew he was going to put us in because we've got the biggest numbers. So obviously, you put the two biggest camps in, and then that alleviates those numbers. Personally, I didn't want to go in it. I was like, nah, I'm not ready to go. I just sort of was forming those bonds and getting along with everyone. And not that I doubted our camp. I knew we were a strong camp, but it was just like, you just don't want to go yet. It's day 8. You sort of just want to stay in the game as long as you can. And then it come to the sort of switch like the dynamic was flipped a little bit because I think Kylie and Titus and a lot of the strong leaders were like, nah, let's do it. Let's back ourselves. And we knew we were strong, but it was kind of like we flipped the narrative. Let's put it on Brett, make him nominate us. And then yeah, fortunately he did. And yeah, I was nervous. I didn't want to go. So everyone was like, yeah, we got this. And I knew instinctively, like I'm a challenge beast. I'll go hard. But I was like that element of going home, it was definitely nervy, but I'm glad we did. I'm glad we went in the challenge. I was nervous but we got there.
Yeah, so I talked to like Sue and a couple of your other members about what was it like winning that challenge and the whole like
Yeah,
celebration like during the night.
like it brought us closer together. Before we went in there, like Joy got us all together and we said a prayer. And I'm not religious or anything, but it was kind of like we're banding together. And then when we won, it just brought us closer together. Like I was completely invested in the game in terms of collegiality and working together to get our camp to the end. So it just brought us together. So that was the best part. And knowing that Rock Camp had gone and there was like 50 something left or 47 left or something like that by then, it was just like, yeah, this is it. This is so cool. So one of the best moments in the game was like, yeah, I think I've said it before, it was like winning a grand final. You're just like, yes, it was this, you're just sort of super stoked and everything just fell into place. And it was such a good moment, such a good moment.
Yeah, so after that, can you kind of talk about why you got all those bracelets from, I think it was 7 or 8 people, because they really didn't show it. Like, I think they mentioned it briefly, like in conversations, but can you kind of talk about your social game? Because you had a lot of people in your camp and they could have chosen any member that they perceived as like strong and they chose you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe can you kind of talk about like the relationships that you had and maybe why you got those bracelets?
Yeah, I guess who I am as a person is I pride myself on, I know, just being a good person. And when I got this opportunity to be on the show, I just wanted to make sure that I was myself and I wasn't necessarily playing the game. And I guess a lot of those contestants in Rock Camp, I guess, saw that I was just a genuine person, so that I wasn't necessarily playing the game because I hand on heart wasn't playing the game at all, really. I was sort of like just being myself, having a good time. And, I spent a bit of time with Max, spent a bit of time with Carleen, got to spend a bit of time with Lou. And there's times where you go from the challenge, where you stay on the island to the challenge island. There's like a 15-minute boat ride. So you sort of just sit next to whoever. And that's the time where you sort of get to talk to others, and that's where I was sort of talking to other people and getting to know rock camp. Did a bit of yoga with Maxine, bit of banter with Georgie, like, you know, they're the sorts of things you don't see behind the scenes. And I guess I think they had there was a few people they were tossing up to give it to, but I guess they eventually chose me because I don't know, like, I don't want to sound arrogant, but like I'm a good person, but like maybe they just thought, you know what, he has taken the effort to get to know us, because there was times where a lot of people were like, and I was all team log, but I was walking around to other camps and mingling and chatting, and not because that's part of the game, that's because that's just who I am. I like to like talk and get to know people, and that's who I am as a teacher. So that's what I pride myself on in a personal relationship. So I guess that worked in my favour. I was just like, wow, how good is this? So there was stuff behind the scenes that the cameras don't get to, which is just the bonds that you make with other people. So, and there's lots of narratives that they could have shown, I believe, but and that didn't make it there. And that's one of those things in reality TV where there's so many times where people are making bonds and relationships, but they don't necessarily show it all. They only show what they think is best viewing, I guess. So that's why I believe I got the braces, is because I would walk down the beach and I'd mingle and I'd have a good time. And I was trying to always display positive energy, even though it was tough conditions. So I think that's why they eventually chose me. But there was heaps of people in log camp they could have given it to. There's some great people in our camp. So very humbling moment for me. I was very, very stoked with that. I've got 2 girls at home and my wife, and that was probably the highlight of my time. Was like, wow, they chose me. So very stoked to have got that opportunity to excel my time in the game.
Yeah, so you're number 1 at this one in the game. So Jonathan gets wheel spin, you're in control while your camp is in control. Was there anyone that you were trying to convince Jonathan to nominate to maybe like take a huge target off your back or really like help your camp in general? Obviously the goal is to take Brett out, but what were you feeling like that because you were now the new most wanted man on the island?
Yeah. I think naturally we wanted to take out Brett. That was sort of what Camp Rock were implying, to get rid of Brett. I didn't mind the bloke. I thought he was pretty funny. Like, I still chat to him even now. We send each other messages. He's a larrikin. He's funny. He's you know, he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He plants trees all over Australia. So he's actually a wonderful bloke. But if I was to have my time again, there was elements where I was just like, oh, how about we just get rid of some 10s so I stay rich, you know, and we've still got heaps of pull in the wheel spin. Let's get rid of a couple of 10s, you know, and then they can go like some strong contestants. But we gave the opportunity for Titus. He wanted to avenge Mike's loss. So I could understand why we did that. But looking back, it was kind of like, oh, maybe we should get rid of a couple of 10s, keep the wheel spin power to us. I still stay the richest. And then, you know, we can move forward in the game as a camp. But yeah, obviously we put in Brett. We gave Titus the opportunity, sort of shot ourselves in the foot because it was sort of like they all ganged up on Titus, which sort of which wasn't good for our game, but sort of made Brett the richest guy again. And then all of a sudden I'm on the chopping block. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're going to be up next, I believe. But that's all right. These things happen. But looking back, maybe we could have gone a few tenors, maybe.
Yeah, so after that, Brett wins, and now you're number 2. So you were obviously on Top Camp's hit list. Was Jake stabbing you in the back? Was that as brutal as like it was shown? And then like, can you kind of talk about like that challenge, just because like puzzles weren't your strength?
No. Yeah, so look, I did have a handshake agreement with Jake and some members in Top. Let's protect ourselves. That, you know, it wasn't necessarily like oh, this is how we're going to play the game. This wasn't strategic. It was just something me and Pete had formed a bit of alliance with them. Let's just keep, you know, a few of us together towards the end. I'd always look after log camp, so we had a bit of an agreement there. But yeah, I mean, the narrative was, you know, like, he did dog me. There's no denying that. We did shake hands on it, and I guess it was true. But you know, the old reality television, let's push that narrative. It was true, so it did amplify it on TV. It made it look pretty like a backstab but it kind of was like, it's not something I would have done. I wouldn't have done it. I would have been a man of me, man of my word, and just said, no, I won't put you up yet until I have to, or whatever. But yeah, it was a pretty hectic moment. But I mean, I just flipped in the game mode. I was just like, he's done what he's done. Like, I can't control that. You know what I mean? I can't control what's someone's decision. So internally, I just flipped in the game mode and was like, yep, let's go. Let's just beat him. That's just all I wanted to do. When I saw the challenge, when I knew it was swimming, I'm a good swimmer. I'm a gun swimmer. When it was a puzzle thing, I got the idea it was a puzzle. I mean, being a PE teacher, I'm pretty good with my words. I think I said on camera, like, words, not for me, but I'm pretty good reader. I'm pretty good speller. If it had been like an actual puzzle, like critical solving a puzzle, I don't know how I would have gone, but words was okay for me. So I was very stoked with that challenge. Personally, I think it was one of the most exciting challenges to be in, like the whole element of swimming underneath the tank, swimming to the key, giving the key to Georgie. It was I think it was one of the best challenges to watch. So super stoked to come away with the win as well. So another thing as well is I actually sacrificed my lead twice for Georgie, and they didn't show that. They sort of showed me swim and go guns blazing, but I swam, got the key, gave it to Georgie, come back. When I swam back for the second time, there was 3 bags. One bag had no letters on. So when I come back for the second time, I had no letters. So I had to swim back for the third time and get my bag and then swim back. So Georgie actually started her puzzle probably 2 or 3 minutes before me, but I'd sacrificed my lead for her to get her into the lead, and she got 2 from 2 of the bags. I was 2 from 3. So they didn't really show that, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. But I remember Georgie met my wife. She goes, your husband, he sacrificed his lead twice for me. I can't wait till that's on camera. He's such a good guy. And they didn't show it, which I'm not worried about it, but it's kind of like would have been a humbling moment because Georgie had spent all this time, your husband, but it sort of made out that I dominated. But that's all right. That's just reality TV for you, I guess. But so I got the win anyway. So that was probably my most, one of the best moments in the game as well.
Well, sometimes having a dominant win is always good to see on
TV. Yeah. So
look at me, I'm so basic.
When I'm a PE teacher at school, so all the kids were like, "You dominated, sir. You killed him." I'm like, yeah, I smashed it.
So, after that, you end up winning. You're back on top. You end up getting the wheel spin. Were you excited about D-Day and getting the wheel spin in particular for that, or like what was your idea?
I couldn't believe it. I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I was shocked that I got the wheel spin, and like I said, I think I said I don't want to abuse the power. I didn't want to abuse it. I was just sort of like I wanted to get our camp to the end. So my goal was to talk to my camp members. What do you think we should do? We obviously had no food. The idea was that, okay, let's take out the camp that doesn't give us food. Like that was the barter. That was the agreement. Why don't you go barter the power? And I was just sort of like, this is such a weird, because that's not who I am. But I was like, I'm starving. Like our camp was so fatigued. We were just hungry. So that was the idea. Go down the top camp. Chelsea is one of my best mates on the island. Absolute legend of a girl. And I made the bargaining agreement. Can you give us food? Just at least a couple of days worth. We're battling. They came to the party. I was like, okay, sweet. And then I did the same thing with Vine. And I was like, come give us food. It will affect nominations. I don't know what I would have done if they both come to the party with food. I would have just been like, what do I do? So it was sort of such a good thing for me to make that decision, because morally it was the right thing to do, because they didn't give us food. And it was kind of like, let's just get rid of Vine. And that was my plan, because they didn't come to the party. So I did what was best for the camp, and that was best for I guess my game as well, moving forward.
Yeah, apparently the Vine members that I had, they told me that they weren't allowed to give you food. Apparently,
yeah, I heard that narrative as well. I heard that the camera crew weren't around or something, and they wanted to give us food, and I heard there was ended up being like 60% of them wanted to give it food and 40% didn't. But I feel like there was some strong players in their camp were like, nah, don't give them food, don't give it to them. So yeah, I don't know what went wrong there, but yeah, it was a bit of a iffy situation. But I feel like they didn't want to give us food anyway. There was only like a couple of them that were going to sneak it over. So yeah, weird situation, that one.
Yeah, so was there any point in your mind, maybe to at that point play a little bit sneaky and take out like Brett's camp just because like he was like back and forth with you on top of the leaderboard and you kind of wanted to like weaken his army in a sense? Or were you
Yeah, yeah,
just
well,
like, I'm gonna keep my word, or maybe did you
yeah.
play sneaky?
I don't know. I think I was always going to go Vine Camp once. Top Camp didn't give us food, but I feel like I don't know. It's funny you say that because like let's just I looked after Top Camp. Let's just say someone from Top Camp gets a Will Spin, I'm second richest, and they just go, yeah, we're putting Corey up anyway. That could have happened. So I guess morally it would have looked good on me, but then they could have gone Chelsea, who had my back from the start. If I remember from Top Camp had got the Will Spin, surely she would have gone in the bat for me and said, "Don't go, Corey." He didn't nominate us. So it's just one of those things. Like power changes people, as you would have seen in the later episodes. But I think I was always going to play the moral game, maybe to the top 20, maybe, and then start playing for myself. But yeah, it was just yeah, it's a tough one. You just don't know what to do in that moment. I think I just wanted to play the moral game throughout, because that's just who I am.
Yeah. So John T wins that, and then he ends up going home the next episode. So you're spared from all that. But
Yeah.
is there anything that we didn't get to see? Was there anything, excuse me, was there anything you could have said to Jaden to make sure that you weren't nominated? Or do you think like he had his mind made up at that point?
I actually, I actually had a hunch that he was going to put me up. He wasn't looking at me. When I shook his hand, his hands were all soft and like it was just not a man's handshake. Because I shook his hand on camera, then I shook his hand behind the scenes, and I actually said to him, "So you're not going to put me up?" He goes, "Oh, I don't know, mate." And then I was like, "Oh," so I kind of had an idea, and then I was like, "Mate, there's going to be repercussions. Like, let's just get our camp to the end and turn on each other when we have to, mate. Now's not the time." And then he was like, "Oh yeah, every man for themselves now." And then I was like, "Oh, I think his mind's made up." But it was like 50-50. Like, and look, I'm not angry at him. I got no ill towards anyone, not especially towards him. At the end of the day, he's a game, but not something I would have done. I would have done it later on. It sort of changed the whole dynamic of Log Camp's game in terms of willpower. That was a plan. Just we had so much power on the wheel. Let's not turn each other yet. If you want to play the personal game, leave me out of it. Put Chelsea up. If still you'll become the richest if you win. But I feel like not to undermine Jaden, he's just young, he's impressionable, he's a bit naive. He was there was people in his ears behind the scenes to tell him to do it, I reckon, from other camps, which is fine, that's sweet. And I think he just wanted to do a big power play and win the game himself, which is fine. But I feel like he was never going to win it anyway.
So was there any like thing that we missed from like the fallout between like Jaden and your entire camp? Because they were pissed that
Yeah.
like 5 out of 6 of you were nominated. So like was there anything that we missed, like maybe before the challenge and then after?
It wasn't very nice dialogue. There was a lot of undermining, belittling, which is I guess quite not that something that I condone, but in that moment I was kind of like he kind of deserved it a little bit. It did come to the point where I had to calm everyone down because it was getting too heated, and it was sort of like I just said, "Look, guys," I said, "Jaden, you've made your decision. It's fine. It's all good, guys. We're going around in circles. Let's not harp on this. It's done. The decision's been made." That's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is there's you can't focus on things you can't control. The decision was made. So like all this negative energy that was getting put out there was just going around in circles. So I actually had to calm everyone down. And I think there'll be a few Log Camp members that'll testify to that. Will say, yeah, you actually calmed everyone down. But there were some loose words thrown around. I feel like I didn't have to undermine him or belittle him myself. One, it's not who I am, but it was just everyone else was doing it for me. So I was just like, nah, let's stop this. It's done now. And But yeah, it was very heated. I think he got a good edit. Like he still got the edit. Like he dogged our camp, but it was definitely a lot more looser words that were thrown around.
Yeah. So can you kind of talk about the log challenge and why it was so difficult to like hold on and all that stuff, and then how difficult was it watching? I think it was at least over like $250,000 just literally slipping out of your hands, figuratively and
Yeah,
literally. So what was that
yeah.
like?
Well, I don't know if you know the sports science terms. You probably do, but like I'm a power athlete, so I'm fast twitch muscle fiber athlete. So all the muscular endurance. I'm a pretty heavy guy. I'm over 100 kilos. By that stage, I was about 87. I'd actually lost 16 kilos, but I'm still a bigger frame. So just holding on to the log, the lactic acid and the muscular endurance, I was just so fatigued and so cooked. And not to discredit Chelsea, she's an absolute powerhouse of a woman, and I was so honoured to share that arena with her. But being probably 30, 40 kilos lighter than me, it sort of was advantageous to her game. But she's so strong, she's so powerful. So I was just so fatigued, and I gave it me all, and I'm trying to. I don't know if you saw me hang off, and I'm trying to shake it off, and I'm trying to get the blood flow, but it was just so pulled, and the lactic acid was there, and I just couldn't hold on any longer, so I fell. But it was the toughest challenge I've ever done. I actually had some marks on my hands for about 2 or 3 weeks after that, like a rash, because I was holding on so tight. But yeah, that was tough, and it was I don't know, like I was gutted, but then I was happy at the same time because Chelsea was my best mate, so I was happy for her. But I just knew I gave me all, so that's what I was most proud of, and so close to winning, but yeah, it just didn't happen. But that's all right; these things happen, eh?
Yeah, so after you don't win, you go to camp, and can you kind of talk about like how you got that injury in the first place? Like, why were you walking in the pitch black where you couldn't see anything? Like, what was that? Like,
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily. I think that was sort of great editing. I did. So we got lanterns. I had a lantern. And there's logs in our camp, and I stepped on a log, and I went to step down just with me right leg, and I was so cooked and fatigued from that challenge. And I've had problems with my knees for forever. Like they sort of give way on me. And I stepped off the log one-legged, and it just went and twisted. I was like, oh no, and I've done it. And then I didn't want to, but I had to go see the medic, and then they sort of assessed it, and it was sort of loose, and I could tell I'd done my knee. I've heard it before, so it was like a medial tear and a bit of a meniscus tear there in the end, but wasn't necessarily walking in the night. I had a lantern. It was I think that was just clever editing, that they just sort of I guess because I was playing a pivotal role in the game, they sort of wanted to, what's he doing? And, make it like he'd done it, which I did do it, but it was not like that, if that makes sense.
so like, how devastating was it to like get out of the game, and like, what was that like?
It was hard to take because I was so fatigued, so tired, and I think it was harder to take watching those next challenges, because the next challenge I think was the OzTag challenge. So if I had a one survivor, or I feel like Jonathan might have given me his bracelets, I would have been okay no matter what. That was the worst part, because I feel like Jonathan would have given me his bracelet. He ended up giving it to Carla, because when I got out of hospital, Jonathan sort of said, I would have given him my bracelet. And I was like, damn. And then knowing what the challenges were, an OzTag challenge, I play OzTag every day at school. I'm a pretty big frame. It would have been hard to take on Geordie if I had to take him on, but I feel like that's my strength. I'm a gun. Like I'm a good athlete, if that makes sense. So I think I would have won that one. And then the next one was like a swim challenge, swimming through, and then Matt won that. I feel like I would have given Matt, a bit of a run for his money. So that was the worst part, watching the episodes moving forward and knowing, shit, I could have been at the end. And it was hard to take, and yeah, but that's all right. These things happen, mate. I was just super grateful to be given the opportunity anyway. So, but yeah, looking at it, I was like, damn, I could have been there, I could have been at the end.
Yeah, so my last question is, what do you take away from the experience, like overall?
I guess the experience in itself was one of the hardest things, probably if not the hardest thing I've ever done. Been away from the girls for over a month, learning new skills. But I guess the best thing that's I've taken away is the fact that I've always prided myself on being the best version of myself and being a good person. And when you go on these reality shows, you don't know how you're going to be portrayed. So to be portrayed as the person I am in the real world was something that I am so, so proud of. And it's a great message for the kids that I teach. It's a great message for my girls. So if I could take one thing away, it's just the fact that I was true to myself. I did play a great game, and that's what I'm most proud of the most is the fact that people did like me, and I would do it again. If you told me I'm going to Langkawi again to fight for $1 million, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And I'll continue auditioning for these shows because I've been doing it for years and years and years, and never. It got so close, so many years on Big Brother, heaps of shows, and finally got me shot. And then I took it with both hands, and I'll do it again tomorrow. Any show.